The Game of the Week. The Game of the Week is an in-depth look at a family-friendly game we think you should try if you get the chance. This week's game is Archeos Society. Archeos Society is designed by Paolo Mori with art by John McCambridge and is published by Space Cowboys. The game was released in 2023 and re-implements Ethnos, a 2017 design also by Paolo Mori. Archeos Society is a competitive set collection game that plays in an hour or less for 2 to 6 players, ages 12 plus, with Board Game Geek saying 8 plus. The Game Schooler podcast says 10 plus. And this is a family game. Those are the stats. Archeos Society is Paolo Mori's second game of the week, with Captain Flip being covered back in episode 181. Doug, you want to give us a gameplay overview?
Sure. In Archeos Society, players compete as rival archaeologists using expert guides, botanists, pilots, and more to make discoveries and bring prestige to the Archeos Society. The game plays over several seasons, depending on player count, in which players will accumulate roll cards and play them to advance on the tracks of the 6 archaeological sites. Each player starts each season with a single card, and on their turn, they must perform one of 2 actions. One action is to gain a card. When taking a card, players may either take 1 card from the display or draw 1 card from the deck, but when acquiring cards, players have a hand limit of 10 cards. The other actions players can take on their turn is launching an expedition. An expedition is a set of cards played from your hand. All of the cards in the expedition must match either the same region color or the same roll type. The card you play on the top of the expedition is considered the leader. The leader card determines which archaeological site you may advance on and which unique ability you may activate. Depending on the size of your expedition and the color of your leader card, you may advance your vehicle on the associated site track. You may also activate the leader's unique ability. For example, the pilot allows you to advance the vehicle on any site instead of the leader's color. The physician enables you to keep the remaining cards in your hand up to the size of the expedition that you play. The physician is handy because every card left in your hand after playing an expedition must be returned to the display, making them available for the other players to grab on their turn. Players continue gaining cards and going on expeditions until the season ends. The season ends after drawing the 3rd monkey card from the deck. At the end of each season, players earn prestige points from their advancement on dig sites, the size of their expeditions, and some end-of-season roll effects. The game ends after 2 seasons for 2 to 3 players and 3 seasons for 4 to 6 players. The player with the most prestige points wins. Archeos Society is full of variety, so no game is the same. The game includes 12 different roll types, even though each game only uses 6 rolls. In addition, each archaeological site is double-sided, with an advanced side offering unique abilities and scoring opportunities. So, can you assemble the best crew to uncover the untold treasures awaiting you in dense jungles, flooded cities, and remote islands? Or will you stay back and filter through the Archeos Society fan mail? So that is how you play Archeos Society. What do you like about the gameplay, Michael?
I thought the game was really smooth, and I love that decision of when to play, right? When to really make that choice, knowing that, well, I'm going to have to give these cards back and they'll be available. So I just had a blast exploring that. The other thing that, I know we're in the gameplay, but the art is fantastic. John McCambridge's art really adds life to the game, and I think plays into the theme and the mechanics of the game as well.
Yeah.
How about you?
Well, I think that push your luck aspect of gaining cards, and it's that situation of, do I draw off the top because I want to make my expedition a little bit bigger, and maybe I'm going after a specific color or a specific role, and so I draw, and it's like, ooh, that's not what I wanted. And then I do it again. It's like, ooh, that's not what I wanted. But then Michael goes on an expedition, and now there's a whole bunch of new cards out there. And so I start filling up my hand. But so it's that push your luck of I want a bigger expedition, but I don't also want to flood the display with a whole bunch of cards that everybody else is going to just clean up immediately, because as the game goes, you see what people are picking up from the display. So I know that Michael may be collecting the botanist this turn, or if he starts grabbing all of the light green cards, I know he's maybe focusing on that region. So that part of it is the best part of the game for me. And I also think it's interesting because it's an ever-changing take on set collection.
Yeah.
It isn't always just, you're trying to get the most purple ones, and then whoever does that is going to do well. It's, I may want the purple ones now, but next time I'm making an expedition, I don't want those, or I'm chasing after this. And then maybe I have a whole bunch of pilots, or, well, a pilot's is a bad example based on the ability, but maybe I have a whole bunch of guides in front of me. Then the choice is, well, which one goes on top? Or I'm chasing after the red cards, and then I have 4 different roles to choose from that are all red. So which one am I going to put on? Which ability do I want? And I love that.
That's a fun decision.
That type of set collection, because it's not just straightforward and it's pivoting. And I think it's a great game of plate spinning, right? You're trying to balance moving up on which track. I need that, but I also want to use this role, but I need these cards to do it. And I love that juggling that's going on.
Well, and that juggling comes into the decision of, am I going to recruit another one, or is it time to launch an expedition? And oh, by the way, it's my turn again.
Yeah.
The turns are quick. There's not a ton of downtime, and especially early game as people are just starting out. So
yeah. And I think this is a great game that allows you to play the type of game that you want to play. So you
say
can
more about that.
Well, you can approach this game how you want. If you want to really focus on 1 or 2 tracks and try and move up those, if you want to focus on different abilities, there's really no wrong way to attack this game. And I like that. I like that you can, I want to, for example, there is a student card. There are twice as many student cards when you play with the student than there are of other cards. However, a student cannot lead an expedition, or maybe he can lead it, but he has no power. There's no power. However, it allows you to get really big expeditions, and the bigger your expeditions are, the more points you score. So it's a viable strategy to just go on very large expeditions and not do as much on the track, or do a whole bunch of tiny expeditions and move up the tracks and score points that way. So I think it lets you play in the way that you like to play. If you like to race up tracks, do that. If you like to build sprawling expeditions, you can do that as well. I also think the role abilities are easy to grasp with only 6
Very
of them
clear.
being used in a game. So once you kind of do that basic teach, it doesn't take very long for people to start grasping what each card does and what the iconography does.
Yeah, so you own this game. So
Yep.
I don't, and that's where I'm a little bit hesitant with the statement I'm about to make. So I want to couch it in that. I don't know what all the different roles are. There seems to be a lot in the base box.
Yeah.
Where you can shuffle in and shuffle out. I've played the game a few times.
Yeah.
But that has me wanting to come back to it and play more and explore it. The other thing that I'll say, so there's 2 things. At a 3-player game, I didn't think that the game was an hour. I didn't log it as an hour. I logged it as 45 minutes with Teach. Is that accurate or inaccurate? Did you feel like this was an hour game?
That would be, I doubt it, not at 3 players
Yeah.
with only 2 seasons. The tricky part with this is that the turns go by so fast, and I'm engaged the entire time, that I feel like this is one of those games that could go 90 minutes, and I would be so lost in playing and engaged that it would blow by in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I logged our games at 30 minutes and 45 minutes. You know, and not that those are always accurate, but I try to make them accurate. So that was the one. The other thing is that the Board Game Geek community age of 8+. I disagree with that. I don't. Now my kiddo is 9, and we can get in that whole age. But Doug and I have played a lot of games with kids around that age.
Yeah.
For a lot of years, and to me, this is not an entry point game for an 8-year-old kiddo. This is more of a 10, 11, 12, 13-year-old kiddo. So I know we have a lot of listeners who play games with kids at that 4, 5, 6, 7, 8-year-old range. And if you see community on Board Game Geek at 8+, from a gameplay standpoint, that's not my opinion. So I just wanted to share that. Longtime listeners will kind of know what we mean by that, because we do talk about that. But I wanted to get your take on it. Do you see it differently?
I think, yes, I 100% think that 8 is too low. I think the 9 to starting at 10, 9, 10 range is probably better. And I think that the 10 is a safe choice, right? And maybe that's where in the discussions going forward and things that we talk about, it's like, when we talk about age, it's not, can an 8-year-old play this? It's when is the best starting point of that? Where is the maximum benefit? Because yes, an 8-year-old could play this, a 7-year-old could play this, but is it great for them? Not on a whole broad spectrum. You would want a little bit more of an age. So I think
the only reason why I bring that up, Doug, more and more I'm coming back to what the publisher says. 12+ seems right to me.
Yeah.
It seems right to me. If you want to stretch it down to 11 or 10, good for you. Congratulations. But this does feel like a 12+ game, and it also does feel like a family weight game.
Yeah. And we've talked about this before in the past. It's hard when publishers have those on the dates or on the box, because you never know if it's because that's what they think the age range for the game is, or if it's the toy manufacturing and choking hazard and testing things that they have to put that on the side of the box as well.
But on cards, that's where I didn't.
Well, but there are the vehicles and ships.
Yep.
So
that's true.
You never know. All right. So moving on to the production, unless you have any other thoughts on gameplay. Michael already talked about the artwork is clean, vibrant. I think the iconography in this game is really well done.
Stellar.
And one of the things I really like about this game, I'll try and show it. So this game, great audio there, has a cardboard insert, but the insert has a spot for all of the different roll cards in it. This is probably one of the best cardboard inserts for a game that I have seen, and I don't believe I had to assemble it. I can't remember, but we're in an age where
that says a lot. Even if you did and you don't remember it, that says a lot.
We're in an age where plastic inserts and all of these fancy things bring out this tray and this tray. It's like there's two ends of the spectrum. There's that. And then there's also, I'm going to give you 5 baggies and you throw all your cards in there, and that's what shows up in the box. This is a very functional insert made out of cardboard and the actual cardboard insert of the box. Like I said, it has another little box here to keep all of the tokens in. It's just a box, and then other tracks are on the side. So insert-wise, really cool. The rule book is very straightforward, easy to read and understand. So A+ for me on that, on production. Anything else that you wanted to highlight there?
No, you said it, and I added some of it into the gameplay because, to me, the art and the iconography, there's a lot of different colors.
Yeah.
But my color blindness was not an issue because the iconography helped me to sort that out and get right into the game.
All right, so let's talk about some things to be aware of.
I've got some things there to say.
Sure.
All good things, all good things.
So this re-implements Ethnos. I think this is probably the right time to talk about that.
I've been waiting to.
Ethnos has the exact same expedition card roll type of gameplay. That part of the game is the same. The part that is different is that instead of moving up tracks in Ethnos, it is a straight area control game on the board where you're using your expeditions to put out units and claim a region, and that region is going to be worth different points depending on what season you're in.
And you're trying to earn glory by doing that.
Yep. So for me, just putting that out there is, be aware that this game exists. There originally was published with John Howe? Is that
John Howe Art, yep.
Who is, if you watch any of the Lord of the Rings documentaries of the making of the original trilogy, he's all over that. A very Lord of the Rings style artwork. Some people just did not like that or care for it.
And I happen to be on the other spectrum where I think it's beautiful. I really like John Howe's art. And I think just everybody's different. And this is where you can have an opinion about art and people can slam you, but it can still be your opinion about art. I read the Lord of the Rings books growing up. I went to the movies as they were released in the theater. So I'm a huge fan of the John Howe art. And for my only thing to be aware of, I see Ethnos and Archeos Society as two different games. And that might be a strong contention or a hot take or a point of disagreement. But that area control piece out on the map and moving up on tracks, for me, they are separate games. And that's where, I made that little disclaimer early in the episode. Doug owns Archeos Society. I happen to own Ethnos. So I don't, even though they're different games, I don't feel that I need to go out and get one to replace another. They're just different games. And I have that first edition with the John Howe art. There's a second edition that has come out with a little bit more cartoony art, I would say.
Yeah.
And the artist on that is David Tosello. So there's a few different editions out there. Just know that if you're looking for the game, you might run into some strong opinions from people. I haven't played the second edition, the newest one yet. I hope to at some point. But man, they're both really good games.
Yeah, and for me, on the original one, the John Howe art was never the problem for me. It was the graphic design around the John Howe art. It seemed like everything was separate. It's like they got this really cool artist, but then none of the other stuff of the game matched up with it.
Sure, there's text and other pieces.
Yeah, it just seemed kind of disjointed. So that kind of always bothered me. For me, the fun interaction of this game is the display area.
Yeah.
That's where the heart of it is for me. So my choice, I used to have Ethnos. I don't need area control on top of that interaction. I like the tracks better because, and here's my reason, is because I feel like it allows you to, when I was talking earlier in the gameplay about choosing your own path and the way that you want to play, I think Archeos Society gives you a better opportunity to do that and to spread out and where in Ethnos, if somebody starts taking an area that's getting a bunch of points, you have to try and get in there, and then
you
eventually
can dominate that area,
and then you can kind of just get boxed out, and it's like, well, guess I'm never getting that area. So for me, when the core part of the game that I like is the display area and when to discard and go on my expedition, with those parts being the exact same in both games, then it defaults to, okay, which second part do I like better? And for me, it's the tracks. As Michael said, I don't have many thoughts on the new version of Ethnos because I haven't played it. So take that for what it's worth. But obviously Archeos Society came out, and then people were like, I still want Ethnos, so they created another one of those. The other thing that I want to point out is I think that this game will take one game to get the cadence of the game down.
Yeah.
The monkeys can catch you off guard. There's 3 in the deck, kind of evenly spaced. And when the first one comes out, nothing. When the second one comes down, nothing. When the third one comes out, round immediately ends. And so kind of basing that and knowing how that works is a big component of it can catch people off guard in the first game that you play. But once
second game I played, it caught me off guard, cost me about 40 points. I was like, I guess I should have gone on that expedition after all.
Yeah, and so that's the tricky thing, is getting that timing down, which I think is a good opportunity to lead into our skills.
Yeah.
Because the time management in this game is really important, because once you start getting towards the bottom of that deck, you need to decide is it worth starting a large expedition? If I have a large expedition, should I finish it up? Or am I going to then start doing a whole bunch of tiny ones? And that kind of ticking time bomb of that deck is a big factor of this game. And you'll see some people like drawing cards out of this display, so they're not drawing cards from the deck just to keep it going a little bit longer. And so I like that kind of manipulation of time, which normally you don't think about. You normally think about time management in like a real-time game or something where there's a clock counting down. This one, it's a deck of cards, and it can really catch you off guard.
That variable endpoint, I love it. I love that part of the game. The other thing that I really enjoy, and a skill that I think comes out in repeated plays once you know the rules and the framework of the game, is competition. And the designer Paolo Mori, I think, has done wonderful pieces and things with competition in his games.
Yeah.
Whether it's Captain Flip or Ethnos or Archeos Society or Unusual Suspects, a game that we've talked about in the past, but we define competition here at the Gameschooling podcast as a game that develops healthy competitive habits as two or more parties compete for a goal or a reward that isn't shared. There's nice little bickering and bantering at the table as people are deciding to go on expeditions or to just, take that card. And I really think that the competition plays out, especially when unfortunate events happen. And I'm just going to double up on my skills here, and then I'll send it back to you. But there's a little bit of perseverance that comes in this game. And you have to have some personal responsibilities. I can clearly think, I can see the last time you and I played where it didn't work out well for me. I was trying to play defense and offense and didn't play either one well. I think one of your kids was playing with us as well. And, you guys both had it rolling, and I was trying to wait for that big final turn. And, what do you mean that third monkey came out already? Well, I have to own that. And so we often talk about it in the game and being able to bounce back. But I think that end game moment too, where it's like, well, I still want to play the game again. I just didn't play it that well. So I love the competition and the personal responsibility.
Yeah, the other one I talk about a lot because it is one of my favorite skills and one of the favorite things I enjoy in games, and that's tactical thinking. Game that challenges players to make decisions based on currently available and frequently changing information. The drawing blind off the top of the deck, the expedition that Michael goes on and puts a whole bunch of new cards out into the display can change where you thought you were going. So maybe I have 2 green cards, but now all of a sudden I can see an opportunity where I might get 4 botanist cards in a whole bunch of different colors. And so I like being able to pivot, and the amount of times that happens, and maybe it is that draw off the top that changes, like, ooh, I wasn't expecting to get that, but now I can see, oh, there's 4 students out there that nobody wants. Maybe I can add those and do something. So being able to observe what's going on and kind of pivot at a moment's notice, I think, is what helps you in this game. You can start out with a strategy. There's no long-term planning in this game. It's impossible to do. You're capped at 10 cards. You could keep drawing and drawing, but then you're just left with what you get.
You can't even really take an approach going into the game.
No, you have to.
And that's what leads me to my last skill, is observation. And you said observe with the tactical thinking. But when I've played this game and had the most fun is when I'm looking and seeing what other people are doing and responding to that. I tried another game, preparing for this review. I tried another game where I just was going to play defense and wait for and load up for a big turn. And it's like, whoa, this is not that type of game. I need to observe what's going on. I need to look at the cards that are happening, and I need to play based off of that. Those are my 3 skills that I brought to the game.
All right, awesome. What's your final thoughts, Michael?
It's a great game. It's a great game that I think works really well in a family night. That's where I would, family game night. That's where I would put this. How about you?
Yeah, I think Archeos Society is a beautifully developed game that provides the right balance of luck and strategy that keeps bringing me back to the table. All right, so that's our game of the week, Archeos Society from Space Cowboys.